Can you hear anything?
No. Ben, can't hear you if you can hear us. I can hear Lee. Lee can hear me, I think.
Yeah, I can hear you, Crackers.
Sadly, Ben, most people would appreciate if they couldn't hear me rather than you, to be honest.
Can
you hear us now?
I think they're back.
Hello?
Got ya.
Yes.
Yeah, all right, fine.
All right, let's take two. What's going on, people?
Yay!
We are Tottenham TV here, back again for another panel show. We've got a star-studded panel today. It's a little bit of a last word on Spurs takeover today on We Are Tottenham TV. We've got returning guest Crackers. Hasn't been on for a while, though, but how you doing, Crackers?
Yeah, very well. Thank you for the invite on, chaps, and afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you're watching from in the world. And I don't know, we'll have this show wrapped up in about 10 minutes. Not much to talk about with Spurs at the moment, is there? It's boring, all this, just winning every game and everybody happy. And, you know, chairman carried around the stadium in a sedan chair by the fans and put laurels around his neck. And hurrah for Daniel Levy as he comes into the stadium in his solid gold car. We're loving life at Spurs at the moment.
Absolutely. Not a day without any worry as a Spurs fan. And Lee McQueen, welcome to the channel. First time on. How you doing, my friend?
Yes, Ben, Sim, thanks for having me on. Really good. Good to be on with Crackers as well. And echoing a lot of what everyone's been saying on social media and what we've been saying on our show, last one on Spurs over the last couple of weeks, what you boys have been saying as well. Utter mess, utter shambles. And I'm sure we're going to get in from start to finish. I mean, I think that, where do we start, lads? I mean, at the end of the day, it is very, very hard work being a Tottenham Hotspur fan right now.
Yeah, it really is. And look, we've got a lot to talk about today, so let's just get straight into it. Look, as you all know, we've had some very dark days in terms of being a Spurs fan, a lot of bad defeats over the years. But to be 5-0 down within 20 minutes on Sunday up at St James's Park, we'll start with you, Lee. Was that the worst you've ever seen as a Spurs fan?
Do you know what, Ben? I think it was. I think that, you know, we've had all dark days, haven't we? I remember losing 1-0 at home to Wigan, AVB. That was the last time I went that season because it was absolutely atrocious. I used to sit up in the South Upper back then. And I remember some defeats to some of the bigger clubs, like, the Manchester United or your Liverpools or whatever it might be, but you kind of almost expect that. I think to a certain degree, we was expecting a very, very tough game. I actually predicted that we'd lose, and that's very unlike me. This Spurs have broken me this season, boys. They've absolutely broken me. I used to be so positive. But actually to see that happen, I actually texted in our last one of Spurs WhatsApp group, didn't I, Crackers? I actually put in there, how long before Dyer or Lloris makes a mistake, I'm going 7 minutes. Well, it happened in, 1 minute and 36 seconds. We were 1-0 down, and you're thinking, you are having a laugh. And I think they made 3 or 4 mistakes within that 20. I mean, it was absolutely atrocious. We were playing with wing-backs that were basically wingers. We had defending too. It was just, it was a lovely ball for their second goal. I've lost count, with Willock, but even so, just so easy, just carved us like a knife through butter. It was embarrassing, Ben, wasn't it? Absolutely embarrassing.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. It's not like the first heavy defeat we've had up there, 7-1 all those years ago in the 90s, 5-1 a couple years back. But we have suffered heavy defeats over the years, but that for me was one of the worst I've ever had to endure. But Crackers, was it the worst for you?
Well, as somebody, my hair will tell you I'm of an age by the colour of it. And I am actually only 17 years old. This is what and but I remember Liverpool 7, Tottenham 0 in 78. When we just come back from relegation as well, and we went up there and we got a real cuffing, and I had to go to school the next day and face the music from that. But even then, you could see that Tottenham was trying to do something. Keith Birkinshaw had come in and brought us back up. Ozzy and Ricky had come. You could see the emergence of Hoddle. So you could see something. You could see putting together a team, and I mean, there wasn't social media then. You took it a little bit on the chin because you could see this was the start of a journey and trying to pull something together. And lo and behold, 3 and 4 years later, there he was winning like the FA Cup. So that hurt, but you could see there was a journey beginning to happen. I think also, I'll tell you another couple that really hurt. Now, you might need to help me out with dates because I can remember 1978, but not maybe 15 years ago when was it Man City came back against us in a cup game at home.
4-3.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
Sim was there that day.
I was at the game that game, yeah.
Correct.
It was Mackie that scored the winner? They were down to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We were 3-0 up at half time.
Yeah. And
Joey Barton
Liverpool
got
done the
sent off.
same as well, didn't they? Liverpool done the same. I think the next season or the season before, there was a comeback the same. But do you know what I always remember? They knew at the stadium that there'd be huge boos at full time. So the first one of those 4-3 reverses where we should have won, they cranked up Beyonce's "Crazy in Love" at the end of the game. So as soon as the whistle went, all around the stadium at 8 million decibels was duh, 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 duh. And it really stuck in my memory. But the next season, when it happened again, what did they play at full time? Exactly the same record. To drown out the boos. And I thought to myself, like, every time I hear that song now, I shiver. It just brings back memories of those 2 nights, those 2 games where these comebacks happen. But no, do you know what? I think that game against Newcastle was probably the worst, more due to the actual response of the players and them not just sitting around each other and not just changing things when we went 2-3 down so quickly. And that collective shrugging of the shoulders, and like it didn't matter, you know. Yeah, so I think from that perspective alone, that's probably the lowest I've ever seen us get cuffed by, to be honest.
Yeah, I completely agree with that statement as well, because you saw just the camera kept panning on Christian Romero. Every time a goal went in, he was biting his nails. No Spurs player just looked up for the fight at all on that pitch. Maybe Harry Kane and Ollie Skip, probably the only ones that looked like they wanted to fight for the shirt, even though they weren't great on the day. But it's interesting what you say about the Liverpool battering back in the 70s with Keith Birkinshaw being the start of something, because this very much seems like the end of something and the end of an era. But what are you feeling about it, Sim?
Yeah, for me, in terms of the context of the whole occasion, it was a game where we could have won to actually put ourselves level on points with Newcastle. Considering everything that's happened this season, they should be more than anything up for a fight for this game, making it difficult for Newcastle, looking to get 3 points because we have something to achieve. It's not like the season is dead, although it feels like the season is dead because now it is anyway. But like in that game, you go into that game knowing a win at St James's Park, we're the team with the top 4 experience. We're the team that has the know-how with the experienced players in this position, like we did last season, to go and maybe go on a good one from now to the end of the season. And to turn up like that with such a lack of care, like an apathy from the players, it was like a lack of strategy, a lack of caring, a lack of aggression, a lack of anything to be proud of on that pitch. To be 3-0 down within 9 minutes and everyone passing the buck, looking at each other like, no, it's your fault. No communication, no leadership, no one pulling the team together and saying, all right, look, we've conceded a few goals, but we got to start putting a fight in. No leadership whatsoever on that pitch, and it was like everyone was kind of saying, it's not my fault, it's his fault, like passing responsibility, and I was absolutely furious watching that game up until the 5th goal. When it's 5 goals after 20 minutes, you just got to laugh, because you don't laugh, you're going to cry. Because I was like, there's that situation. That's how bad we are. 5-0 after 20 minutes in an important game for our season. I mean, it beggars belief how you can put yourself in that situation. I mean, a League 2 team could have gone to Newcastle and done a better job than we did. A non-league team could have done a better job than we did in those first 20 minutes. And it just seemed like no one gave a crap the fact how that game was going. There was no sense of trying to change things up. It was like, you know what the funniest thing was? Every time the Newcastle scored, they would show the replay, and by the time the replay was finished, Newcastle had the ball again. We didn't even get to see us on kickoff. Like, it's like we didn't have possession. It was amazing. It was unbelievable. And I've seen us. You know, we lost 3-0 to Zagreb a couple of years ago under Mourinho. We've had some like, as Cracker said, I was there when we lost 4-3 to Man City at home. That was one of the worst days. We've lost 7-2 to Bayern Munich not so long ago under Pochettino. But for me, it's just when you add in the context of how important this game was and the lack of care from these players, it's a culmination of how this club has been run, brought to a head pretty much in this game. Because how the players can have that sort of attitude going into such an important game, like, you can blame it on the manager, you can blame it on the players themselves, and they take blame, but there has to be an overarching reason why the players just have stopped caring at this important stage, and it has to go from above.
Yeah, no, 100% has to go from above. But Lee, does it say a lot to you when players like Ollie Skip are the ones laying into the more senior players in at half-time? I mean, Ali Gold gave that to us yesterday, a bit of information what was going on in the dressing room at half-time, and apparently Ollie Skip was the one trying to galvanise everyone and just lay in to the more senior players. Does that say a lot for you?
For sure, mate. And I think that, it's fractured, isn't it? At the end of the day, it is a team sport. I know we all know that. We like to single out individuals, players, and rightly so for bad performances as it turns out. But it is a team game, and I just think that it's completely fractured. I think, probably the last straw was when Antonio came out. It's so interesting. I was on Sky Sports News yesterday, and they were running an interview as well. They were rerunning the interview, from Antonio Conte's press conference. And it's just so weird. Now you know what's happened, and then you play that interview back. It's literally word for word what he predicted. It's almost like they're playing out what he said, like, almost like a script, isn't it, Ben? It's just mental. So, yeah, from what's, I suppose, good for Ollie Skip, by the way. But, what's worrying is that the guy's 22 years old. Yes, he's an academy player, he's Tottenham through and through. But equally, what about the professional and personal pride from the other players that weren't stepping up? It's embarrassing. It is embarrassing. In actual fact, Sim, just going back to what you said about 3-0. We actually silenced the crowd. We're the first team to silence the crowd for the wrong reasons. Parks in St James's Park, they couldn't believe what was happening. It was absolutely silent. They've gone 5-0 up, and we're like, yeah, we silenced the crowd, but we're 5-0 down. I mean, it's absolutely mental what was going on at the weekend. So, look, I'm pleasantly surprised actually that Ollie Skip was the one kind of leading them the inquest, as you like, at half time. But questions have got to be asked. Where is the leadership? We heard from Daniel Levy. I'm sure we'll get into later. We heard from Daniel Levy about looking at the players community or whatever it was called. That he said and the rumours are that it's Eric Dyer and it's Højbjerg and it's Lloris and it's Harry Kane. Amongst others, but where is that on the pitch? Like, we don't seem to have that on the pitch, do we? And then for Lloris not to come out some feigned injury, I don't know if it's a real injury or is it a feigned injury or whatever. It's just completely fractured and broken, and it needs fixing. It needs fixing ASAP because we are rapidly declining into a mid-table team, and God forbid if Harry goes. God forbid.
Yeah, and what the latest thing that's come out is that apparently the players have offered to reimburse the fans that were up in Newcastle. It's the first time I think we've ever seen that as Spurs fans. But what's your reaction to that, Crackers? Is that enough? Is it a good step?
Well, look, it is a step because quite often across social media, across platforms like this, when we go to places and there's been an abject performance or a loss where you feel that the players haven't actually put in, we have all called for the players should reimburse the fans. Well, they've now done it. So you can't get that and then not go, okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's something we've called for. You can't then go, well, that's not enough. Well, what else do you want? To marry my firstborn or give you my house? I mean, You know,
Keys
so
to the stadium crackers. That's what we want.
God, exactly. You know, Beyonce tickets. There she is again. It's yeah. So look, you have to say, okay, fair dues. That's the sort of thing we've been asking for. That's a step in the right direction. The motives for it, maybe you have to have a little bit of a side eyes glance at that. I think the club are absolutely crapping themselves for Thursday night, and I would wonder that would this have happened if we wasn't at home on this coming Thursday, or we had an international break, etc., etc. So yeah, it's look, ultimately actions speak louder than words. Getting beat, and we have been beat a few times. We got beat by Bayern Munich by 7 as well, but I mean, we got schooled that night. That wasn't for a lack of effort. We just got schooled, and that does happen. You know, Man U got beat by 7 the other week. You know, so that happens. It's just show us that you care. You know, give it. All right, everybody takes their money back. Thursday night, show us that you care. I think with the mood in the camp at the moment, the barometer amongst the fans, I don't know if anything's going to be enough now, to be honest, to quell the discontent. But it is something we've asked for and something that we've now got. So a tip of the hat to it, a cautious tip of the hat to it. At some stage, this impasse between the board, the players and the fans has to be breached. You know, there has to be a thawing and an olive branch. So otherwise, you know, we're just going to end up in a standoff until forever. So at some stage, olive branches have to be offered and taken on both sides. Is that now? Then that comes down to the individual as much as protesting does. If you're ready to protest, do it. If not, then don't. If you're ready to accept this as a way of apology, do so. If not, don't. Everybody's got their own personal thoughts on that.
Can I just interact, if I can, Ben and Tim, on
of course.
with all of you, and obviously the viewers and you know, everyone interacting with the show. You know, for me personally, you know, I've been very, very tolerant of the board. To some people's, you know, watching this right now will be saying, way too tolerant, you're a clown, why, you know, you need to be saying this, you need to be backing this. But everyone's got their own breaking points. And for me, this season, you know, for me, Sheffield United, as I mentioned before, that was my breaking point. It does feel, maybe it's because I'm in it more now than I was because I was tolerant, but it does feel like there's been a bigger shift towards bigger change, or you know, in out or Levy out, or you know, that move, that it does feel like that. I mean, boys, you've been in around it, you know, with the likes of Brian and the protests and stuff, and been part of them yourselves in the past. Do you feel like it's building momentum? Like, what's your take on? Did you think that the fans are coming together even more to try and make something different or make something change?
Well, to be honest, Lee, I think that when I first felt like that, because I've been involved in kind of out protests probably since the Super League, right? And I got very dejected with it all because not enough people were turning up and they were just a bit of a laughing stock, and we didn't get anywhere with it, let's be honest. And I think as the season has progressed this season, you're starting to see more and more people starting to voice their opinion. And what really opened my eyes was Crystal Palace away this season, where you really saw the fans voice their opinion. And
I was there, mate.
yeah, and you were there, exactly. So you know what was going on. The atmosphere was brilliant, and Enoch out, Levy out was being sung to the absolute max. And what really got me was, like, usually when we go a goal up, 2 goals up, the Enoch out and the Levy out stuff just takes a back burner for the day. But what I felt that day is every time we scored, the chants got louder and louder and louder. And I felt like that was the kind of a birth of something. And I feel like the fans are starting to come together. But still, I don't think it's anywhere near enough to what we want to do to try and force change, to be honest. So I think a lot more fans still need to come on board. And I think a lot of fans still try and make a mockery out of anything that people try and do. So it's going to have to get to a stage where all fans need to be coming together. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to work, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I think for a lot of people, like Conte, for a lot of people, when Conte was appointed, they said that was like Levy's Hail Mary. That was his last throw of the dice to try and get support back from the fans. And for one, at the time when Conte was appointed, we were very much, after Mourinho and the Super League, we were very much on the Levy out and ENIC out. I wouldn't say bandwagon, but we're definitely on. That was our opinion, that it didn't need to change. But when they did appoint Conte, I did put it on the back burner because I couldn't feel not hypocritical to be calling for him to do something like appoint Conte, and then he appoints him, and then I'm constantly criticizing. So I wanted to see where it led to. But now we've seen where it led to, and essentially it's all fallen apart. And I have to say, he's a massive part of why it's fallen apart. If not, he's the reason. And now we're in a very similar situation to where we were 2 years ago, when we were when it was the Super League. Apart from obviously the Super League stuff, but we've got no director of football, we've got no manager in sight. The plan, there doesn't seem to be a plan right now. We don't know what's happening with Harry Kane. Everything's up in the air. The strategy seems to be completely out the window. Other clubs are moving around us very quickly, whereas we're standing still, kind of not sure what we're doing. We're not sure what direction we're going, and the pressure is building on Daniel Levy, and rightly so. I think he deserves this pressure because what is happening at this club? We did a video in January. What is the direction of this club? Where are we going? We thought Conte's probably not going to last the season at that point.
We know less now than we did then.
And exactly. Now we're sick. We're a few months down the line of then, and it's like, what is going on at this club? Who is taking charge? What direction are we going in? And these are questions which are fair questions. And I think Daniel Levy right now and ENIC, they don't seem to know the answers right now.
Yeah, I think we're going to delve deep into Levy and ENIC in a minute, but let's just go on to our next question, and it's regarding the manager situation at Spurs, regarding Mason and Stellini. I mean, there's been a lot of questions regarding Antonio Conte throughout the whole season. He left, Stellini got the job, which was absolutely bizarre to me, absolutely bizarre. But now he's gone, Mason is in charge. We'll start with you, Crackers. Is this the right move for the club right at this moment in time?
No, because it should have never have got to this, should it? Back in January, Antonio Conte started filling his nappy in press conference and post-match conferences, and you could see the writing on the wall. The moment he went in on the club, you knew that was the beginning of the end. So even from January, that board the next day should have convened and said, okay, right, Antonio has absolutely lost it last night. We all know how this ends with Antonio. We've seen it at previous clubs. This is the beginning of the end. At some stage, he will go, or we will have to get rid of him because it's gone. And there would have been stuff that we're not privy to going on, which would have formed their opinion. So right back from January, they should have gone, well, this is coming to an end. Where's our next move? But they didn't. They just let him carry on and just get more and more vocal and vociferous in these press conferences, to the point of where the next move for him was literally just punching Daniel Levy on the nose. He was begging to be sacked, begging, and they done nothing about it. And then all of a sudden he goes, and it just seemed like on the Monday morning, Stellini's turned up for work and gone, hello, Daniel. I don't know if you know me. I normally put the combs out for Antonio. And they've gone, you're the manager, crack on. And that was that. And everybody was like, what are you doing? You've just got rid of Antonio Conte, and now we've got like Lidl's Antonio Conte. If you go to wish.com and order Antonio Conte, you get a Stellini. And it's bizarre, absolutely bizarre appointment. Everybody went, well, this ain't happening. Now, Ryan Mason, and it feels to me that, look, Ryan's a lovely guy. I've met Ryan a couple of times. He is properly Tottenham, okay? You cannot get away from that. But then Lee's a lovely guy, proper Tottenham. You, Sim, you, Ben. I know 1,001 people that are lovely guys and proper Tottenham. Have we got it in our locker to manage a top 5, 6 Premier League football team. We haven't. And I get he's had a career as such in football as a player, but that doesn't qualify you to be a coach. And this feels like the ball has gone, put Ryan Mason in the dugout. You know, he's a Tottenham boy. He was dealt a terrible hand of fate with his injury. This might just knock the edges off of them booing in the stands on Thursday night. It feels cynical. It feels like a human shield. We shouldn't even be there. And for me, like, look, if it's not going to be Pochettino, okay, fair enough. Off he goes, away you go. But there's other candidates out there. If it's to be Nagelsmann, go and get him today. Get him today. Make him an offer he cannot refuse. If that man is Slot, ditto. If it's Company, the same. Make them an offer to make sure that they are at the training ground tomorrow morning. Get yourself together and sort it now. But it should never come to that. One goes, one comes in. You should see it. You should see it coming. So, look, we are where we are. It is going to be Ryan Mason. I wish him all the best. I know that there's sections of the fan base out there that would like to see us get cuffed again on Thursday night to speed things up with like the demise of the reign of Daniel Levy or Enoch. And there's other fans that don't. I know once kickoff comes Thursday night, just me personally, I'll be behind the team. I want to see us to win. I just can't do 47 years of supporting Tottenham and want to see us lose. Even in the grand scheme of things, of it maybe bringing about change quicker. I'm sorry, it's just in my blood. If that makes me a terrible person, so be it. But you know, if you want us to lose Thursday night, God bless you. But please don't come at people that do want to see us win once that whistle goes. That's the madness of being a football fan, isn't it? Absolute madness of the psyche of football that it gets you like that. So I wish Ryan luck, but you know that you're being played, please.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that about wanting Spurs to lose, because I've also seen quite a lot of that doing the rounds on social media, especially by Levy out and Enoch out brigade. But for me, I mean, I could never, ever want Spurs to lose unless it's to stop Arsenal winning the league. That's the only situation I think I could ever want Tottenham to lose in, to be honest. And look, Lee, what are you feeling about the whole situation? I mean, you can't say that you're happy that Mason's in, but do you think it's the right move at this stage of the season, at this moment in time?
I think the thing for me to sum up where we're at is that a few years ago, during COVID, we got to a League Cup final. And the football was turgid. And after I think we're 3-1 up against West Ham in the October. And we end up drawing 3-3 with that freaking Lanzini goal. And then after that, Jose Mourinho just went, that's it. We go low block, we defend. That's what we're going to get. And to be honest, lads, viewers and listeners, we've got since that moment, basically defend, no front foot attacking football taught from any of the managers that have come in. The point being is when we get to the February during that year or that same match week, we sacked Jose Mourinho 6 days before a cup final and we put in the rookie that is Ryan Mason. Now, I echo everything Cracker said about Ryan, the top guy, proper Spurs, and I do wish him the best genuinely. I think he's going to have a fantastic career. But to put the bloke in charge 6 days before cup final is utterly ridiculous. It's a ridiculous situation. And to come back to the point, Ben and Sim, you both made earlier about the European Super League, it was all around that time as well that the ESL was going on and so on and so forth. And I'm absolutely certain, not by any sources or inside information, just from my own opinion, that the reason why that happened is because we thought we were going in the Super League and the Carabao Cup don't matter a jot because we're going to be in the Super League. Obviously, that didn't happen. It could be a case of if Jose Mourinho wins a trophy, he gets a massive bonus, and maybe the club, the board, Mr. Levy didn't want to pay it out. Whatever you think. But the point I'm making is that Ryan Mason comes in charge 6 days before a cup final. He wins 6 games left, so he wins 4 of them in the league, and then he loses 2, including Aston Villa away, 2 years later, the exact same thing is going on, minus the cup final, which is very obviously a shame. But we've got 6 games left in the league. Ryan Mason comes in as a caretaker manager, and what? I mean, and this is the reality of the club's decisions over and over and over again. It's just the same. It's the same stuff, boys. Listen, viewers, it's the same thing, and something has to change. It needs to be different. Whether that's Levy in or out, we'll get into that a bit later. But the reality of Ryan Mason coming in, what is he going to change? We've just seen against Newcastle, you can't play a back four with the personnel we've got. Unless Emerson Royale and Ben Davies are fully fit, we ain't playing a back four, surely, against Manchester United, because we're going to get absolutely ruined. And the way the style of play of Mason is to play a back four, typically he plays a 4-2-3-1 like Poch. So I don't know. Obviously, I'm the same. I can't see us lose. It pains me. I get grumpy. I get grumpy with my family. I'm a nightmare. I know it's totally immature, but I'm a nightmare like that. And it affects me when we lose football matches. I want to be winning football matches. So when the whistle goes, like Cracker said, obviously I want to win. I want to beat Manchester United. But we have to learn. You know, we can't keep making the same mistakes on the pitch. We can't keep making the same mistakes at management level, and we can't keep making the same mistakes at board level, because it is constant. It is tiring, boys. It is tiring. So I do wish, like Cracker said, I do wish Mason the best. But is the voice in the dressing room going to be that different? We've had it before. So is it going to be different? What this team needs today is a new voice to reinvigorate and say, this is how we're going to do things now. I'm the person in charge. This is where we are. This is where we're going. That comes from the top, but also from the new manager. So if a Nagelsmann is their preferred and they can't get him in before the end of the season, but they can do the deal and announce it. Interim manager Ryan Mason is going to take us, but we've got Nagelsmann. It's something for us to get behind. Do you agree with me, lads? It's
100%.
100%.
Don't wait until the summer and then announce it if you know that it's going to be done now. And obviously, if you can't get it done, then get whatever you can get done, but announce it. If you can't get the guy in to Hotspur Way tomorrow or this week, but at least announce the fact that he's coming so we can get excited, and then we can start to build from there. So I hope we win every game of the season. I hope we smash Manchester United. I hope we absolutely batter Liverpool. I hope we absolutely ruin Crystal Palace, etc., etc. We're not going to, but that's what I hope, because you know, we had the best ever start to a Premier League season this year. Can you actually believe that? It's just unfathomable. I can't understand it. Our record points total year of 86 under Pochettino, we had a better start this year than them. Not in terms of playing football, but in terms of points total games played. I mean, this is unreal. We should have been, for a record points total, we should have been getting 88, 90 points this year. We're barely going to, well, even if we win all our games, we won't get enough to get even mathematically into the top four, even though that's completely gone now. We get 71 points if we win all of our games, and we're not going to do that. So it's just really disappointing, lads, isn't it?
Of
course,
it is. I mean, Sim, what are your thoughts on it? And do you think that it's possible for us, with the Italians gone, to have a strong end to the season?
Not particularly, no. I think we can win a few. Maybe we can win a game or two. Maybe beat Palace. Maybe I don't know. Maybe win another game. But I think this team has shown time and time again that they have given up the fight. They don't care anymore this season. I think it's not just the Newcastle game was the best example of it, but I think we saw it at Southampton. I think we saw it at Everton. I think we saw it maybe not so much against Bournemouth, but we saw it recently. For me, I said it after the Everton games, the red flags were there. After Everton, if you can't win in that position when they've gift wrapped you the game, you're 1-0 up against 10 men. Everton have done nothing all game, and you just literally have to see out like the last 20 minutes again with an extra man, and you are not only not able to do that, but you get dominated. And you probably could have lost the game. That's how bad it was. That to me, after that game, I said I think on the stream the next day I would have sacked him. I think there's no point carrying on with this. There's no point, because because if you can't win in that position, then what position can you win? If you look up in the dictionary, papering over the cracks, you would have seen Tottenham versus Brighton. That's probably what would have come on, because we got so lucky to win that game. It was unbelievable. Like, it was incredible. I think that he should never be given the job in the first place. It was right to sack him now, but it's too little, too late. It's not, the cynical part of me sees this as just like what Bowley's doing with Lampard, just kind of appointing him because he knows that the fans aren't going to start chucking abuse at a person they really like, and it kind of takes the pressure off a bit in that sense, and it maybe buys a bit of time to go look for a manager. I'm guessing that's the cynical part of me who thinks that's why this appointment's been made. I don't see it improving. I can maybe see us scoring a few more goals, but I don't see us him making us defensively solid in any way. These defenders are a shambles. I don't believe these players believe in themselves that they're still in this top 4 race, and I think we've now seen it in the last few games that they've completely lost belief, they lost fight, and I don't see Mason being that guy to turn that around. So maybe if he was sacked, maybe he was brought in straight after Conte, and it was straight away a new approach. And in the last few games, it was something different. I don't know. I'm not saying it was guaranteed, but maybe we could have put ourselves back in that top 4 conversation. I think now it's too little, too late. I don't see these players fighting tooth and nail just to get a Conference League or Europa League spot, to be honest. I think they don't care about that. So I see it just getting more and more toxic, to be honest, now to the end of the season.
Sim, do you care about the Conference League? Like, from a fan? I mean, you go home and away, you travel everywhere, right? You boys travel everywhere, the channel travels everywhere. Do you want Europa Conference? This is a hard one, right? Because
if you ask me,
we want to win, but
if you ask me about Europa League, I wouldn't mind Europa League for next season, to be honest, because I do think that's a decent competition you can win. For me, Conference League, it's a waste of time. I really believe that. I know West Ham are doing well in it this season. It'll be a great achievement for them if they do win it, but I'm just not bothered about it. I think it's a third-rate European competition, which is honestly a waste of time. Last season, it was only good because we went out in January and it became a good season because we got top 4. It didn't lead to anything, but I don't think we would have enjoyed last season if we stayed in the Conference League, to be honest. I'm not bothered about Conference League. I'm really not.
I think it will serve us much better being out of Europe completely for a year. Focus on the league, focus on the domestic, and start to build the squad. That's my opinion. And it's like, if we do get battered to Manchester United on Thursday night, are they going to sack Mason? Are we going to go for a record 4th manager in one season? I mean, Sim brought up a point when we were doing our videos yesterday. Dan Juma has had less appearances than he's had managers at Spurs. Richarlison has got less goals than he's got managers at Spurs. I mean, what a shambles it is at this football club.
And we're the first team as well to sack an interim and appoint an interim for the interim. Like, it's madness.
Yeah.
We do love first at Tottenham, don't we? We do love first.
But does that not, like, just tell people something? You know, we're in the same position we were 2 years ago, sacking a trophy-laden manager to appoint Mason for the last 6 games of the season. It's Groundhog Day. Yeah. We're back here again. We've literally gone through a whole loop.
Why don't we just have a guest manager for every game? Why don't we try that? I mean, we could have Michael McIntyre on Thursday night, couldn't we? And then, we could, and Costa could go in for the game after, and I'd just try and pull up some like celeb Tottenham fans, couldn't we?
Forget for the celeb Tottenham fans, get Beyonce in for one. Why not?
Get Beyonce in for a game.
You can take it for the rest of the season.
The other commercial opportunity you couldn't put past this club either. Next year's 2024 club calendar could have 12 managers. January Conte, February Stellini, Mason March. We could have 12 managers on the club calendar. Come on, Club Shop, up here for thinking, down there for money. Make it happen.
I want to ask this a question, though. If, let's say, Mason somehow wins all 6 games and plays great football, is there even like a 1% chance we could appoint him full time? And because there were rumours, I remember.
If Mason overnight turns into Pep Guardiola, shaves his head and starts playing tiki-taka.
Was there not talk a few months ago saying some in the hierarchy believe Mason could recreate what Arteta has done at Arsenal? Like, if there is that actual belief in the hierarchy, do you guys reckon there's any chance Mason could earn himself a permanent role here as manager?
do I want him to earn it is a different question. Do I think that the board might do it? That's very different. So I asked the question from a board, but do I think there's a chance that the board would do that? Yeah, I do. I absolutely do, because the decisions that they make are baffling, but absolutely baffling. And I said on the show last one on Spurs last night, that the recruitment decisions in this football club are absolutely abysmal from top to bottom. That everything from board recruitment level to management recruitment level, coaching recruitment level, player recruitment level, it's just been absolutely abysmal. So yes, Sim, from a perspective of could it happen? Could the board do it? Yes. Do the fans want it? That's up for the fans in terms of a poll. Would I want it? No. I think it's way too early for Mason. I think in the future maybe he might be good, but would we be thinking that differently? How many of us saw this Stellini situation happening when we beat Man City when he was in kind of caretaker charge, when we beat West Ham and when we beat Chelsea? If he'd have been offered the job then, when Conte was still ill, would we have been going, okay, fair enough? But I don't know. So results. What do they say? Results change games and results change situations, don't they? So, but I wouldn't put it past the board for appointing an absolute rookie manager for full time if he goes and wins his next 6 games.
Crackers, do you feel the same way, or do you think it's a possibility?
In fantasy land, if it's absolutely possible, if you need, it's criteria that you need. Play some sort of football that your fans buy into and love. Now we're all go get 'em front foot, like play exciting football sluts, aren't we? We can't put up. We always have been. We've always been sluts for it. We've always
just give us a bit of push and run football. We'll be all right.
Exactly, we're built on it from 51 with half a row onwards. As soon as a Ginola comes along, a Gascoigne comes along, we absolutely love it, don't we? It's down the years we've always given people like Carrick stick. I don't mean Carrick's good enough, Waddle not good enough, but as soon as you bring in a fancy Dan, oh yes please, I'll have a bit of that. That's just the DNA.
Give me
of
a bit of Jose
fans.
Dominguez. Come on.
There you go. There you go. So, look, if a manager's playing the sort of football that fans enjoy, he's getting results, then you would have to say, why not? If the players like him, why not? But the reality away from that fantasy land is you cannot go from, a bit of being good mates with the current lot of players and doing a bit round the training ground to managing at that level. You've got to go away and be assistant somewhere and then go and be a manager down in the National League or League Two, like Justin Edinburgh, God bless him, was doing. Now there's somebody that, and I wish to God he was still with us, because what a great guy. There's somebody that you could have said, okay, Spurs player that can come through, because he was cutting his teeth and cutting them well at Orient. But so Ryan Mason needs to do that. Company done what he done at City, then went to Burnley. I think he actually went in at quite a high level, but he's torn it up. You need to
Anderlecht first though as well, Crackers.
Yeah, of course. I've completely forgot that. You have to take those steps. So look, would I put it past the board to do it? I wouldn't put anything past them at the moment. I really, really wouldn't. It's just the madness of this club and the decisions that are made at the moment. So he's not ready. One day, if he is, then we can all get behind that, can't we? Because he is a good guy. He's a Spurs man. We always want to see homegrown come back and tear it up. Of course we do. We buy into them more than anybody else, don't we? So see you in August, Ryan.
100%. But look, let's move on to the name that's on everyone's lips at the moment. That is ENIC and Daniel Levy. I mean, Crackers, you've been very vocal about it very recently. Lee, I've seen what you've been saying on the matter as well. But we'll start with you on this one, Lee. Is Daniel Levy's position now completely untenable?
Well, like I said before, I mean, it's a brilliant question. Like I said before, I've been very tolerable, very tolerant of there. I think that, and I still stand by what I say, I think that off the field, the commercial aspect of what they've done has been excellent. I think it's been very, very good. Even today, the commercial deals of revenue generating. The problem has always been the footballing side. History doesn't lie. 22 years, 23 years, one trophy during that period of time. 14, 15 managers. If you look at the interim managers that are coming through, abysmal decision after abysmal decision, and putting the club into the ESL, the furlough situation that the board and the chairman Daniel Levy took upon themselves beforehand. You look at the situation with before the stadium came, whether or not it was it was a ruse to get the planning permission. Who knows? But at one point we might have been going to play where West Ham are, the Olympic Stadium. So there's a lot of terrible, bizarre decisions that have come out from this ownership. And you have to say that, like I say, I've been very tolerable, but you have to say that if things don't change, and this is what I keep calling for change, a lot of people batter me they won't change. Maybe they won't, but for my sins, I'm willing to give them the opportunity to change, because I want them to change, because I need the footballing side to change. It's Scott Munn. Like, again, we don't know Scott Munn. It might not be everybody's cup of tea, but we want the footballing decisions to change. The club have appointed the chief footballing officer, but we want the footballing decisions to change, or we want the club to be more humble. The club start to own some of their, or start to be a little bit accountable for making certain decisions or whatever it might be. But I think that if they're not going to change, this is the perfect moment, Ben, a sliding doors moment for them to come out and say, we've made some massive mistakes. This is our vision and this is our plan, and we want to engage with the fans, the community, to get our Tottenham back. And if they can't or won't do that, then I think it's time for them to step aside. So to answer the question directly, is it untenable? I think for a lot of Spurs fans, yes. For some, no. But I think that if they don't make a statement of culture and change and DNA, then yes, it is time for them to move on. And they've had a fantastic run, but it's time to pass the baton, the custodianship, if you like, of this fantastic football club. It's time to move on to something new and something different. How we get there, Ben, I don't know. It's a 3 billion, 2.5 billion, 4 billion, whatever you want to say. Somebody's not just queuing up to get that, but that doesn't need an excuse. The board need to take accountability for where they are. And the thing that they can clearly do, the quick wins, the low-hanging fruit, whatever cliche you want to say, could have easily been Maurizio Pochettino. It could have easily come out and said, we've made mistakes. We're going to reappoint. This is where we're going to go. This is our journey. This is the culture of the football club we want to be. They haven't done any of that. Maybe there's a shoot of that today. Maybe it's just PR, the fans forum that they're doing and that sort of stuff. The paying of the reimbursement of the tickets for the Newcastle. But for a lot of people, it's already gone. That ship has sailed, and it's time to move on. Absolutely. So, if something doesn't change in this sliding doors moment, how I see it, then yeah, I think Daniel Levy needs to say, do you know what? Thanks for your time. I'm off, and move on from the football club.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm well past that. To be honest, because like when you're looking at it,
I'm being a bit generous.
Yeah, I think you're being very generous, to be honest. And first 10 years under Enoch and under Daniel Levy, you could give them a pass, and I think that. They definitely brought the club on a long way in those first 10 years at the custodian of Spurs. But I think since then, they just haven't kicked on the club anywhere. I mean, they can get us to a certain level, getting us into the top 4. But are they fit for purpose for taking us any further than that? I think definitely not. And I just can't see a way where his job is tenable anymore here at this football club. And what are you feeling about it, Crackers?
I tend to be more to your side of this argument, Ben. If I'm honest, I think it was a case of you could see the football side of this club beginning to slide away. I think they've built something with this new stadium now that they've bitten off more than they can chew, to be honest. And I don't think that they've actually got the skill set to now run this whole operation. I mean, we're kind of like a catering trailer that done really good chips and then built this stadium and said, right, okay, we're going to start adding fish to this. And they've gone away. And while they're perfecting the fish recipe and cooking that to perfection, the chips are burning like the chip pan's on fire. The footballing chip pan is absolutely on fire now. So, they've gone away, but that's their skill set. Their skill set is that commercial side, that building. This is where they come from. That's more finance, bricks and mortar, getting things done. I don't think they're people person as businessmen. They're not. That's not really in their skill set. So, look, if they was to split the board now, and Daniel runs away with Donna and goes on and carries on doing all the commercial things, fine. I've got no problem with that, because they're actually really very good at it. And they've done amazing things with community programs. I'll gloss over the fact they did want to take us to Stratford 10 years ago, and now all of a sudden they care deeply about Tottenham. But we'll forgive them that for the moment. They've done fantastic things with the community, the college, all sorts of things in the peripherals around the club. But the football side is a clown's car on fire. Now, if they split the board and get football people involved to run the football and don't meddle, give them autonomy, don't micromanage, then there's a small glimmer of a chance for them to actually get this back and start to get people back on side. But I do think, like the plane, when it hits 180 miles an hour up a runway, even if the engine's on fire, it's taking off. And I get the feeling we are at the end of the runway with them, and we're going into the air with the engines on fire with them. I think
it is hard to argue that. It is hard to debate that.
I can't see them changing enough to actually pull this back now. It's too far up the runway for me. And I think, Enid going and Daniel Levy going are two very, very different things. And I want to include Donna Cullen in this as well, because Daniel gets a lot of hate. There's a lot of decisions come from her as well as other people on that board. So look, Enid going, okay, you can on principle call for them to go and find somebody with 5 billion quid, and then they'll go. That's a reality. You might not like it, that's a reality. Daniel Levy going, he absolutely can go, because you can just get another chairman with some fresh eyes on it. Football is cyclic, isn't it? You don't want to play at a club too long. You don't want to manage at a club too long. You have to have a churn. You have to have a refresh. You have to have fresh thinking, fresh voices to keep pushing you on. That applies to chairman of clubs as well. So at some stage, these 20 failures of managers have to be his fault at some stage. The other day when he said, this is absolutely on me and I'm fully responsible, so as punishment I'm going to sack Christian Stellini. That's basically what his statement said. He said, I take full responsibility, so I'm sacking Christian Stellini. There you go. That is in a nutshell. He has to see his own shortcomings. He really does. And if he is a Tottenham fan like he claims to be, truly a Tottenham fan, if you're failing the club that much, you would fall on your sword. You would do the honourable thing. No matter how much it hurts you financially, I don't think he's ever going to worry about paying the electric bill like a lot of people are. I think you step aside for the good of the club you claim to love.
Crackers, you're right. He did take accountability for the first time in that statement. But I mean, it's taken him 22 years to do that, with many, many wrong decisions week in, week out, year in, year out. I mean, do you think that was just a bit of lip service, or do you actually believe he genuinely believed that?
That's a tough one. You'd have to live inside Daniel's head to get the true answer to that. Given the way this club's operated for 22 years, him coming out the other day, the players refunding tickets today, the announcement of the fan member on the board, etc., all coming out today would point me to the cynical side of it, saying, oh no, Thursday night, this is going to be absolutely terrible. what can we do? What can we announce to try and knock some edges off of those boos on Thursday night? I'd love to be wrong, and I'd love to say that they are genuinely sorry and they genuinely want this and genuinely want that. But after 22 years of, you know, what we've been served up from them and the silent arrogance of them when things have gone wrong before, excuse my cynicism. And I think that's all I'd say on that. Excuse my cynicism of these announcements.
Sim, what are you feeling on the situation? Because, you know, Cracker spoke about a potential way that maybe Levy and ENIC can get fans back on board. Do you feel like it's too far gone for that?
For a lot of fans, 100% is too far gone. When it's 22 years, within those 22 years, there's going to be countless opportunities for them to have gotten a lot of fans on side. But with each wrong decision, they're alienating more and more fans. And I think those wrong decisions, especially in the last 4 years, have completely accelerated. And now we're in a position where as Cracker said, as Cracker said, we're completely on fire on a footballing side. I think the footballing landscape has changed so much since they took over in 2001. I feel like they're failing to keep up with the landscape of football. How teams are now developing philosophies within football clubs. They're much more strategic. It's not just about appointing big names and just hoping everything falls into place. It's about having a plan. It's about executing it. It's about getting the right people in place. What's called from the recruitment side, I feel like this board and the hierarchy, I've said this before, when we're talking about signing players, I always feel like it's not about looking at our team and saying, okay, what player are we going to sign to fit each role in the team and strategically going through and having a plan. It's like what we do is we look at who's on the market and say, what's a good deal? Who can we sign for? Who's available for the money? Who's a good name? That's what we do. We don't strategically look at players to fit the team. We just sign players and try and fit them into the team. That's essentially what we do. And I think it's fans are sick and tired at this point after 22 years of this hierarchy, and I think there's more and more fans who are starting to want their voices heard. I was listening to Levy's Cambridge Union interview last week, and I was listening to him speak, and he was asked about trophies and stuff. And the Spurs is trophies a priority for him? He said, look, it's a journey. Of course, we're still on that journey, and we want to win trophies, and hopefully trophies are at the end of the journey. And I was just sitting there thinking, after 22 years, like, how can you keep talking about a journey? It's 22 years. Like, at what point do you have to accept it's not a journey anymore, and this is just what you are? This is just who the hierarchy are, and they're not going to change after 22 years. And whenever things get too bad, there's always a big PR spin. They'll sack the manager. They'll appoint Paratici. They'll appoint Scott Munn. They'll try to take pressure on themselves. But at the end of the day, when all is said and done, nothing seems to change. Everyone's in the same position. Each manager comes in and has complaints about the board. And at the end of their tenures, we have the fans on the manager's back saying they have to do this, they have to do that. But it's the same with every manager. It happens every single time. They all have the same complaints, and the board, at the end of the day, once they sack the manager, they're getting off scot-free because a new manager will come in, and all of a sudden the fans get behind them, and the same cycle begins. They need to be held accountable from the fans' voice, and fans should, if they believe, if they are displeased and they do believe that they're not happy with the footballing side, they should voice that. They should be saying that ENIC are not doing a good enough job, because that is what's going to put pressure on the board. It's going to be the fans using their voices. And for me, I can't, if you look at the direction this club is going, what is Levy's plan from a footballing standpoint? He's got loads of plans off the pitch. He's got rugby coming in. He's got F1. He's got Beyonce. He's got hotel. He's got all these plans. And you know what? And we've got all these plans. And what do we hear about these plans? No expense spared. We'll spend all the money you want on these new investments, on these new things that they want to bring to Tottenham. Everything is like no expense spared, but when it comes to on the pitch, there's no strategy, there's no plan. It's like football isn't a priority. It's not a priority
at this football club.
Yeah, that's what it feels like anyway, and for sure, because it feels like they're more interested in all the other things that they're guaranteed to make money. Whereas in football, it's like, well, we have to do things right to get in the Champions League or win the league, win trophies. You have to make strategic things. They know that all they have to do is put on a concert, and that's guaranteed money. They don't have to make sure they're spending money on the right centre back to make money on a concert. You know what I mean? They just get Beyonce in
the
there.
application in to get that extra date for
Yeah,
Beyonce.
maybe.
The other thing to that, Sim, Ben, and everybody is, look, the stadium opened, told it was a game changer. Along came COVID. It came along for everybody, but it obviously came at a really bad time. I mean, on a financial footing front for Tottenham, it came at a bad time for everybody. But you know, keeping it just in the Tottenham context. So, if it is a case of we need to be getting these, you know, Beyonce on ice in go-karts at the stadium, a monster truck, NFL, rugby racing, whatever it is, tell the fans, say, look, we are doing these things and the money will feed into supporting the football club. It will go into supporting Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, but this will take time. He's kind of said these things, but he tucks it away in interviews at Cambridge Uni, or like somebody from the Financial Times, or, you know, it will be an Open University program at 3:00 in the morning, or he'll speak to Professor like Smith from the Botswana business development stuff. He speaks to, go and speak to somebody from like newspapers at the Butcher, Builder and Candlestick Maker, reads that at the cafe in the morning before he goes off to work. Go and tell those people, you know, go to them and say, look, we are doing these things so that we can feed into the football club. I guarantee you it. But just say it in the right places. Don't go running off to the university and speaking to a few business people, or speaking to like North Korean TV, like the club's own TV channel, where you're going to get a real mauling off of like the questions that you wrote yourself.
Yeah.
We're not stupid, you know. Come out and speak to people that have got platforms. Go and do an interview with somebody like Henry Winter, or speak to Martin Lipton or Martin Samuel, or go on to Talk Sport, or an interview with BBC Match of the Day.
Come on here.
Well, yeah, but the moment any of us say "come on here," oh, you're just doing it to get yourself like.
We'll turn into happy clappers overnight.
Exactly. You're on the payroll of the club, mate.
Yeah, their comms, their public-facing comms have got to be so much better. They really have, and they could knock off a lot of this vacuum of toxicity if they was to do that. Just speak to the fans a bit better.
Yeah, well, Levy did that, didn't he? A couple of years ago, after we sacked Mourinho, he said, "You know, we want to get the Spurs DNA back," and he had this whole thing.
Nuno.
And then he didn't. Nothing came to pass. So I think that also is something that's lost trust a lot from the fans. When we do hear from him, it just seems to be half truths, a lot of things that no specifics, kind of things that he doesn't live up to. And then and crackers, when you talk about him, you know, committing to spending money from other investments, I think that would be a good thing. But the problem is, at the moment, we have been spending money, but it's been spent all completely wrong, it seems, at the moment. And do I trust him with the money? Do we trust him with the money? A lot of fans have given up on trusting him with money as well. Exactly. And and so everywhere you look, it's like I'm looking for something which, at the moment, about this club, how it's being run on the footballing side, like something positive. And I'm struggling to find any at the moment.
Yeah, look.
That feeds into Lee's point about having best in class when you're appointing directors and, you know, the football director and the finance director and the operations director and the medical team and da-da-da-da-da. You got to go out and get best in class. You have to do that. But I think you have to know what that looks like.
If they had the level of detail that they'd put into the off the field, off the footballing decisions, the level of detail, crushed aggregate in the stadium floor, you know, crests put out. So it is magnificent. If they had the level of detail like that on the footballing side, we'd be one of the best in Europe, if not already. You know, and this is the frustrating things. You know, I'm not saying we should, you know, Levy's doing a fantastic job at all. What I'm saying is that they have clearly some brilliant skill sets that they're good at and some that they're not good at. So either get best in class in people that they are good at. See, the best way to be successful or be elite is to have good people around you. You know, you should never be the most, you know, I have board meetings, you know, I have board meetings every month. I've run 3 businesses. I've been you know, a managing director of a massive corporate organization. You know, I don't want to be the most cleverest person. By the way, I'll never be the most cleverest person, but I don't want to be the most cleverest person in the boardroom. Like, I have people around me to do that stuff. And the recruitment of the people around you, it's a team effort. And it just feels like that they just don't have the right people around them. Yes, they have the right people around them of footballing matters, of governance, of finance, of bricks and mortar, as Cracker said, but they don't have the right people around them footballing decisions. And I know that we haven't come on to this yet, but all them years ago when Sol Campbell did what Sol Campbell did, you know, Daniel Levy publicly came out and said this will never happen again. Yet we've now got one of our own, Kane, coming to the final year of his contract, and in a year's time, if he doesn't sign, he can walk wherever he wants. And I'm not saying Kane's going to go to Arsenal, but he could go wherever he wants. He can go and join Poch at Chelsea to finish off to finish all of us off, essentially. And that will be as bad. You know, the culpability, the accountability of these decisions, these recruitment decisions, has to be.
Oh, we crashed. Have we crashed, Queever? No, Crackers is still there.
I think Lee's crashed.
Yeah.
I think just Lee.
Back now? No, yeah,
all
back now.
All back, all good.
Go on, Lee, you were stopped mid-flow.
Oh, sorry, but sorry, I've just had a connection issue there. So, yeah, I was saying that it has to be culpable. These decisions, these recruitment decisions at each level, it starts from the top, and that is Daniel Levy. We can't keep making these terrible footballing decisions, these recruitment decisions across the board. When you look at the history of the football club, it is about making decisions, and some of them go well. All people make bad decisions, you know, and all people make good decisions, right? All make mistakes. No one's perfect, but the reality is that the decision making on the footballing side, from you know, the bad decision making on the footballing side, far outweighs the good decision making on the footballing side, and that's why we are where we are. You know, there'll be other fans of football clubs that go, "What are you moaning about, guys? You're 5th in the Premier League. You're just outside." But from where we are and where we should be and where we want to be, it comes back down to we don't know what we want as a club, as a collective. That communication, that culture, that vision has to happen now. Is the perfect time to come out. And if you don't come out and give us and set us the vision, then walk away and give it up to somebody else. It's somebody else's turn.
We seem to have another problem at the moment as well, is that everyone in terms of the football world seems to be waking up a bit. I've never seen as many like but like critical articles of Daniel Levy as I've seen over the last few weeks from people like Henry Winter, The Athletic, of being very, very critical of Daniel Levy, whereas maybe a few years ago, everyone was praising him for the way he's running the club and his tight ship, and now everyone's starting to wake up, and not just them. It seems to be something that other managers are seeming to wake up to now, since post Conte and Mourinho as well. How many managers rejected us 2 years ago? All of a sudden, this time round, it seems as though there's a lot of reservations from a lot of different managers about coming to join Tottenham. And maybe it's the bad footballing decisions over the last few years or 20 years are starting to now come to a head, where there's a lot of good people who we could get who are being put off by how the club is being run from a football strategic point of view.
Yeah, and that's a culmination of bad kind of decisions Daniel has taken. I mean, since hiring Pochettino, I genuinely believe, I don't think he's made one correct major decision on the footballing side since hiring Pochettino. And that's crazy for someone to stay in a role for that long when you're making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. And now we're a club where we have to convince managers to come here, as opposed to managers trying to convince us that they're the right man for us to take on. And that's a massive problem. But Lee, what were you about to say?
I was sorry, I don't know. You still got me. So my Wi-Fi is pretty bad here. But I was going to say that, you know, when you look at you talk about some of them managing decisions, you know, you might look at it and say, well, hang on, he got Conte in, but he got Conte in as a win now manager, but then didn't give the win now manager the win now tools or the win now players. You know, we got Jose Mourinho, wow, you know, serial winner. We've got Jose, yeah, but you didn't give Jose Mourinho the win now players. We wanted Skriniar, you got Roden. You know, Harry Redknapp all them years ago, you know, he wanted quality centre back. He ended up getting Ryan Nielsen, with the greatest respect. You know, it happens time and time again. So, you know, I want to make my position clear on the footballing side. It is absolutely abysmal, them decisions, and that's what needs to change. And if the board, if Daniel Levy is not willing to change that, then it is time for them to move on. But that is harder than it's easy to say. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's not about 4 or 5 people queuing up for 4 or 5 billion quid to take over Tottenham. Although there has been talks with we allegedly with QSI and all that sort of stuff as a part investment. I was saying to Crackers in the week when we was on the phone that, you know, it might be that a QSI might come in and put 30%, you know, £1 billion in, for example, and that might not give them, you know, overall control. But believe you me, a 30% stake in a business, £1 billion stake in a business, definitely gives you a voice. If that starts changing the voice in the boardroom to more footballing side, then that will be a huge start. But, you know, like I say, who's queuing up to get into through the door, Ben?
On the flip side of that, though, Ben, Sim and Lee, if the fans put enough pressure on the club and make it unbearable, which is in principle what a lot of them are asking for, that 5 billion, someone will buy it for 4.2. You know, if it's cheap enough, they will go. So, I mean, you know, there is some validity, to be fair, to people that do want them out, to make it so intolerable, but they fire sale it just to get out of it.
Can I just say on that, this is the thing when you look at it from a financial or business perspective. You look at Newcastle, very, very attractive, 300 million quid, massive stadium in terms of where they can renovate, the work to be done, the project work to be done. They can throw some money at some players and whatever and start to build like they've been doing. They can get into the Champions League and all of a sudden they're rock and rolling. 300 million still. You got to put 3 billion down to even get in a conversation with Tottenham, and that's really difficult. You know, you look at Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world. Yeah, they might go 4 or 5 billion, but come on, they're not Tottenham Hotspur, are they? And that's why sometimes you've got to look at the financial generation and go, actually, they're generating money. The commercial side, they're generating money. A potential buyer is going to look at that and think, well, that's good. That's where the valuation comes from. But the opportunity at Newcastle for 300 million quid is more attractive, isn't it, than a 3 billion? But stadium's done, don't need to do anything. Training ground's done, but that might be a benefit. All you've got to do is sit back and watch the money roll in. But actually, if you're an investor, you want to buy small and then see your investment grow, don't you? You know, how far is a 3 billion investment going to grow? It will grow, but will it grow as big as what Newcastle could grow? I've only paid 300 million out. I'm going to get that to a £3 billion valuation. I've paid 3 billion out. I can get that to a 4 billion. Do you see where I'm coming from? So yeah. I can make $1 billion at Tottenham, but I can make 3 billion at Newcastle. So what's more attractive? So that's the idea. And I think that you could argue on the other side of that to balance it out. Scott Munn coming in, have some dealings with the City Group and being in that period around the City Group. Is there an opportunity to start bringing in? Is that investment from QSI coming? We don't know. We're speculating, but it's something that we hope. But we know from the footballing side, it's the hope that keeps you, and it's the hope that kills you, as we always say. So it's a bloody nightmare, isn't it, lads?
It is a nightmare. And I'm looking at maybe Newcastle. You mentioned Newcastle. I'm looking at Newcastle. I know they're state funded and everything like that, but I don't think they're acting like a state funded club. And I think they've come in and they've basically shown Daniel Levy how to run a footballing side of a football club. And they've completely embarrassed him, in my opinion, with the way that they've grown in such a short space of time. And he needs to take a look at that and what they're doing. They particularly plan each player that they're going to bring in for the system that Eddie Howe wants to play and the gaps in the squad that they need to be doing. And what do? We spend 60 million on Richarlison when we're desperate for centre-backs and wing-backs. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense.
Again,
so
Just quickly on that, Ben, if sorry to interact with you there, but quickly on that, why is that the case? Because they've got Dan Ashworth, and Dan Ashworth, where did he used to be at Brighton, right? And then went through England, now he's at Newcastle. But look at the Brighton structure. Again, what Sim said right at the beginning of the show, what I've been banging a drum, a culture, a plan, a vision. You know, Crackers said it, we've said it so many times, you boys said it on your show, we've said it on last one, the Spurs show. It's about, you know, if a manager leaves, the next one can come in and it's seamless. It becomes seamless because you're playing the right way. If we brought Poch back tomorrow, we play a 4-2-3-1. We've got a doggy coming in. He's a wing back. We've got Perisic, a wing back. Pedro Porro, a wing back. I mean, this is mental. We're changing the whole cycle again. As Sim said, again, the decisions making. Look, it is about wiping the slate clean on the footballing side and going again. And we're going, and this is where it's painful. Poch said all them years ago, we're going to go for a painful rebuild. Maybe this is the painful rebuild that he was talking about. Maybe we're halfway there. We've got £230 million worth of players out on loan, guys. I mean, if that doesn't smack red flag, we can't move these players on. We've bought them in for massive transfer fees. We can't. This is a recruitment nightmare. Somebody needs to get hold of that. It's, for me, that is the clearest, biggest indicator of what needs to change on the footballing side. Is somebody coming in with a clear understanding of the players that we bring in, the structure that we're playing under, through the academy, through the under 17s, 18s, and 21s. All the way through to the first team. What are we doing in that structure? Who is running that? And then you hear stories about Paratici obviously having to move on because of his, his dealings or whatever it is abroad. Then you start thinking, hang on, is there going to be repercussions in the future for us? Maybe down the line. I mean, you just don't know. There's still so many questions that need to be answered over that side of things. But you know. The footballing side has been neglected, and it is something needs to change definitely on that side.
Yeah, when you're looking at the state of the squad right now, first we don't have a manager, don't have a sporting director, and in terms of the actual playing staff, I went through it the other day. I counted about 19 players where either their future's up in the air, leaving at the end of the season, or they're just simply not good enough to be in this squad. And that's 19 out of 25 or 26 players, which is, how would you let it get to this? How?
30. There's 36, Ben, I think. I counted the other day. There's 36 players that potentially could be classed as first-team players. So if they all come back from their respective loans and all that sort of stuff, I don't know what you were counting in terms of are they good enough or not, but I just went, right, how many people are in the first, would you class as first? Regulon still plays for Tottenham. Yeah. Regulon, like, you know, we've got a doggy, you know, we've got Lo Celso, we've got Dembele, who's about to pick up a championship, Serie A. You know, it's madness, isn't it? It's, exactly, how do you let it get to this? You've got directors of football that have been and gone. We've had 6 directors of football since we were the first club to appoint a director of football in the Premier League, and have they worked? You know, you might get a couple of good signings on it, where Baldini sold our best ever player to Real Madrid for a record transfer fee, you know, and bought in the Magnificent Seven. How did that work out? You know, you had Damien Comoli, for example, who came in and then fancied to go to Liverpool, so he wanted to go off really quickly. You had the board and the club appoint Jacques Santini as our manager, and within 10 minutes he'd gone, and then we ended up with Jarl, which, by the way, was brilliant and a fluke, but ultimately it was a fluke. I mean, this is just constant, and this is where, you know, my being lenient on the decision making because of the financial footing of the club or the business side of things, but the footballing decisions are an absolute joke, and they need to change. And again, maybe I'm being too being too nice, but Scott Munn has been appointed. We can't pillage the guy, and he's started his job yet. Maybe this is the start of the change. But I mean, Sim, what do you think? I mean, I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see what you mean. You want to give Scott Munn a chance, and to give him a chance, you have to kind of allow him to do the role. And if we're calling for the change of the chairman and all this kind of stuff, then maybe that would hinder that. But I just think people have lost trust in all their appointments, all their decision making, and I can understand it after such a long time of the club not moving forward. Well, especially in recent years, they need to be held accountable for their poor decisions. I do think we should give Scott Munn a chance, obviously, now that he's in the role to kind of correct the footballing operation. He is director of football operations, so he's going to be in charge of all the footballing side of everything. Paratici, the new director of football is going to be accountable to him. So hopefully that leads to more separation from Levy for the footballing side. But at this point in time, like, it's kind of has to be a case of I believe it when I see it kind of thing. And I think a lot of fans, even at this point, don't trust that Levy won't be able to stay away from his minute control, which he's got so many yes men around him, Daniel Levy. No one to criticise his opinions and his decision making. He's got a load of people just basically kissing his ass, it seems, at the moment, and it feeding his ego, and then his ego builds up to a point where he never thinks he's wrong. And will that lead to him overriding Scott Munn in certain decision making because he believes it's better for the football club to go in a certain direction? And even, we've had sporting directors who have grown frustrated with Levy, because they feel like they've held him back and stuff like that, and they end up leaving. Scott Munn, Paul Mitchell, he was great.
Football sucks, but he was brilliant and bringing in some, almost had that Brighton-esque feel of, bringing in players that, we had the Wanyama's and we had Eric Dyer at the time. I know I get battered for that comment now, but back then, £3.5 million was a good signing. You look at Alderweireld, for example, under that, and if you look at that back four that we assembled, in the heyday under Poch, Jan Vertonghen, I think it was 9 million, 11 million for Alderweireld. Danny Rose come from up north, didn't he, from Leeds? I think it was a few million quid.
16 million.
Yeah, and then Carl Walker as well. He come with the other Carl, didn't he? To be fair, on the double deal with Carl Norton and the double deal. And you look at that back four that we put together, the best Premier League defence in that 16-17 season, and it was put together for less than 50 million quid. And I know times have changed in terms of that. I just think that our fan base as well, me included in this, I'm not pillaging anyone. It's like if we went and bought a Matoma for 3 million quid, we'd be like, oh, he's not very good, he's rubbish. But now we're like, oh, why can't we go and buy a Matoma for 3 million quid? When we bought Dele Alli for 5 million quid, we didn't know how good he was going to be, but people were like, oh, 5 million quid, Dele, classic Levy or whatever. And then bang, he'd become an absolute baller for 2-3 years. Yes, he's gone off the boil now. But this is the thing, and like you said, Crackers, it goes around in cycles. You need to refresh, you need to refresh. We've gone from selling all of our best players, but, Keane, Berbatov, Defoe's, Crouches, Bales, Modric's, the list goes on and on. Van der Vaart left the football club. We were selling all our best players to literally shutting down and selling no one. I think the best player that we've lost in the last 5 years or so is Carl Walker for 50 million quid. We haven't sold one of our best. And Ericsson, but again, most of the fan base, even then, Ben, when Ericsson was going, was like, "I'll get him out. He's not interested. We don't want him anymore. Whatever." The point being is that we could have sold Ericsson 2 seasons before that for 90 million, 100 million quid. We could have sold Dele Alli for 120 million at the time, and these numbers definitely they could have gone for, but we didn't do it. But we've gone too far the other way, and these are decision making. Like they don't. Coming back to your point, Ben, Sim. Sorry, they don't understand the football inside. That actually. It's time to move a player on. Like it's time to move Jaap Stam on at Manchester United. It's time to move on a David Beckham even at his heyday. They don't understand it's time to do that. Liverpool sold their best player in Coutinho. And then the next thing they know, they're getting 96 points total in Premier League and winning absolutely everything. 2 Champions League, a Champions League against us, a Champions League final. But if we'd sold Harry Kane to Manchester City 2 seasons ago, an absolute uproar. Now we're sitting there going, he's got 1 year left on his contract. Was that a good decision? Do you see where I'm coming from? So it is about decision making, and people need to be decisive. And you can only make good decisions if you know who you are, know what you want to be, and know where you're going. And in business, in football, in life, if you don't have that, you just drift. And if you drift, you get people like us for an hour and a half or whatever talking about the problems and the mess that they're in, because we're just drifting. We drift a bit of driftwood on a river, and hopefully something might happen. Hopefully we might be able to nick a trophy. Hopefully we might get in the top 4. And quite frankly, it's just not good enough.
Yeah, and you talk about before when you were talking about Scott Munn about maybe giving Levy another chance and all this kind of stuff. But what's the old saying? Like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. What's fool me 22 times? How many shames does that go into? What's the saying for that? Like, shame me 22 times. You know what I mean? It's just an absolute joke, and he's not fit for purpose anymore. That's just the honest truth of it. And yeah, I think we can. I think we've put our points across fairly well for that one. So let's move on to the last story the last discussion of the day. And if you are not happy with that discussion, definitely ain't going to be happy with this discussion about Mauricio Pochettino. It looks as though he is about to join Chelsea, which is going to break my heart seeing him come out of that dugout and manage that team. Crackers, we'll start with you on this one. How's it going to affect you? Do you care that he's going to go into Chelsea? What will it be, in your head about your relationship with Mauricio Pochettino?
Well, I would have liked him to have come to Spurs. There's no secret. I saw him as the person that could not only just become our manager, but we need, I think, a little bit more than a manager maybe at the moment, someone to almost heal the club. We spoke with Tim Vickery on Last Word on Spurs about this, and he's somebody that could actually we could all get behind and galvanise. I'm not sure. I've had time to reflect on it, and I do still want Pochettino, but somebody quite succinctly pointed it out to me in the week. Maybe I just miss how Pochettino made me feel about Tottenham rather than Pochettino himself. And that's a fair comment. I think a lot of the actual Pochettino songs from the crowd is we want somebody that we can buy into, that hurts like us when we lose and cries and celebrates like us when we win. I mean, to see him in Amsterdam after we got through to the final, he celebrated and cried more than any fan. There was, the emotion just went, and we loved that. We buy into that. So look, if it's not Pochettino, somebody that brings those same values, those same feels, that comes in, somebody that doesn't rock up in a press conference and talks about you lot when he's talking about Tottenham, somebody that wants to be here. So look, man's got to eat. So he can't just sit on his backside at home waiting for Daniel Levy to pick up the phone. If that phone call's never come, then he's absolutely entitled to go and work. And Chelsea, don't forget, he's not a Tottenham fan by birth, is he? He hasn't grown up on the terraces, etc., etc. He's a man that works in football. Chelsea represents a great project for him, doesn't it? It's a really great project when you look at it, taking your Tottenham hat off just as a football project. So of course he's going to want to go there. He'd be excited by that as a football person. So this is why he's probably picked or chosen somebody like Chelsea over going to Villa. Look, if he goes, then he goes, and I'm ambivalent to it. When we come to play Chelsea, it will be Tottenham with their manager versus Chelsea with their manager, and I want to see him get battered, absolutely battered. I want to see him absolutely crestfallen that we've ragged his Chelsea team around the park. So I'm not that much of a Poch fanboy or a Poch cuck, as I was called, a Poch cuck. Like during the week, because everybody's just so binary with their thinking on social media. I will be 1,001% behind that new Tottenham man, and what Pochettino does with Chelsea is what Pochettino does with Chelsea, and I'll have absolutely no feelings for it at all. I won't be, Chelsea have won the FA Cup this year and I'm kind of pleased for Poch. I'll be upset it wasn't Tottenham with their manager. So, that's football. Would you
say, Crackers, that Poch going to Chelsea rules out any future chance of him going back to Tottenham?
Well, he'll absolutely come back, won't he? Because we've got a fine
enhances it,
tradition.
doesn't it?
He's probably he's odds on
definitely
for next Spurs
enhances it.
manager after the next one, isn't he? Because we
100%.
always take somebody that was at Chelsea. So look, Glenn went and done it. He played for Spurs, and then he went away and he managed Chelsea. And other players that play for Spurs go away and manage other clubs, and then they come back. So in the midst of time, these feelings subside. Everyone roar at them for a multitude of reasons. So he's just trying to take a little bit of emotion out of it at the moment. So that's where I stand with him at the moment. It's football, isn't it? They see it differently to us fans.
Do you feel like when Pochettino does come back as a Chelsea manager to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, he'll get a bad reception or a good reception for the fans?
I think he gets a mixture of both, doesn't he? I think some people will, give him a little bit of applause, and others will give him the absolute dogs, wouldn't they? And that's football fans, and that's another one of these individual things. Everybody sees this game and the rights and wrongs thereof in different ways. It will be a mixed reception, I think, to be honest. He'll probably get polite applause as he comes out and takes his place in the dugout. And if they come away with a 2-0 win, he'll be called all the Argentinian so-and-sos under the sun as he goes down the tunnel, won't he? So the fickle nature of football.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Lee, I believe you need to make a move now. So thanks for coming on today, my friend.
Guys, thank you so much for having me. Just a quick one on Poch. Most people that listen and watch Last One on Spurs and follow me on Twitter will know that I'm a massive advocate for him coming back to the club. But like Cracker said, I'm not going to fanboy him. As soon as he goes to Chelsea, that's it, game over for me. And it's all about Spurs. And if we bring in a Nagelsmann or a Vincent Kompany, and I know you guys will chat about that when I'm gone, so be it. But I do think that's another decision that the club have to wear, that they've messed up, because this geezer could have absolutely changed the fortune. It was low-hanging fruit for me, and they haven't done it. So it's another one on them. And I ain't going to say good luck to Poch, because I think him going to Chelsea is a disgrace, quite frankly. But geezer's got to work, so happy days. But look, guys, absolutely loved it. I love what you guys are doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. And good luck for the rest of the show, boys.
Thanks,
Lee.
Lee.
Cheers
Thanks for coming on, and hopefully we can do it again, my friend.
Yeah, mate, 100%. Cheers, boys.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
But yeah, I mean, the Pochettino thing for me, I mean, it's going to hurt me so much seeing him in that Chelsea strip. I mean, I loved him so much, and I'm not going to boo him. I'm not going to cheer him either. Once he goes to Chelsea and he comes out of that Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, that's it. Like, you're just another Chelsea manager to me. And once he leaves Chelsea, maybe that conversation can start again. But whilst he's at Chelsea, I mean, I have no feelings to him whatsoever. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, it hurts so much when you have a manager who, whenever he spoke about Tottenham, he really understood what it meant to be manager of a team like Tottenham Hotspur. And whenever he talks about Tottenham since his departure, he's always been talking about unfinished business. He's always talking about he wants another crack at it. He's talking about the love he feels from Tottenham, and he doesn't, he's unhappy that it ended when it did, and how he made us believe again in something better, essentially. That's what he made us when he became Tottenham manager. And to see someone who embodied everything about what it meant to support Tottenham essentially go to Chelsea because of how things have turned out, because we did decide not to bring him back, and we're in a situation where that's the best job on offer for him when we tried to get him back 2 years ago. It's going to hurt immensely, because he's... a Tottenham, would you describe him as a Tottenham legend? Yeah, probably.
He's our best manager in the Premier League era. He's our best manager in the
Premier League era. So to see him turn up at Chelsea and he's going to do his best for them, and he's going to become a Chelsea boy, and he's going to, maybe he'll win them a trophy. That's going to hurt absolutely immensely. But at the end of the day, we're Tottenham fans, not Pochettino fans. And that's just something we're going to have to live with and move on for. Once he takes over at Chelsea, he becomes a Chelsea manager. He becomes the enemy while he's a Chelsea manager. That's it. When you play for Chelsea and you play for Arsenal during that period, you're the enemy. That's just how it works. And after that time, we can have another talk about it. But
how do you feel like Chelsea fans might think about his comments after leaving Spurs, saying that, you know, I would love to go back one day and win a trophy at Tottenham? Do you think that plays in the Chelsea fans' thinking at all? Do you think Chelsea fans want Pochettino with his Spurs connections?
It's probably a good gun to shoot them with, really, because you do know that if Daniel Levy phoned Pochettino this evening before he puts pen to paper and says, "Come here," he's coming to Spurs. He's coming to Spurs all day long. So I think this is just something that we will use to hit them with. Again, there'll be people that will go, "Oh, I don't want him because he said this, and this about Chelsea." But, you know, footballers do and managers do. And then all of a sudden, you know, when they come to you, everything changes. It's like Richarlison, isn't it? The amount of times we went to Everton, or, you know, Everton came to Spurs, and there he is diving about, and you're giving him a bird, and you're calling him a disgrace, and then all of a sudden he's your player, and when he's doing it and winning you a free kick or a penalty, you absolutely love him. But football does crazy things to people's mentality. It really does. We all do it. It's just the nature and the beast of being a football fan. You just have to recognise it and be comfortable with it, don't you? So it's just, you know, it's one of those things. If when he comes, he's Chelsea manager to me. When he leaves, he's Pochettino again.
Fair enough. But look, I think we shall leave it there. It's been a really good show. So Crackers, thank you so much for coming on once again. Hopefully we'll be able to do it again in the near future. But do you
want to read some super chats quickly?
All right, read some super chats and then we'll end the show.
We'll end the show after we'll get through the super chats. We've got Phil P said, Spurs and a shocking paper round has done Crackers. Phil P also says, big up lads on the panel. Has the result and the season finally broken the fans' belief and trust that Daniel Levy can lead us back to glory? We've discussed that, but I think we can all agree that a lot of fans are definitely broken and have lost trust in Daniel Levy. And it seems as though there are reports that players and staff are starting to lose faith in Daniel Levy as well, and that is probably even more worrying, because at least even if there's fan pressure, if there's a belief inside those walls that he's doing the right thing, then at least then things can be achieved. But if it's breaking down internally as well, that's when the real trouble starts, in my opinion. So that's definitely something to look out for. Football Heritage, I think that's Sava. He says, Levy and ENIC out. No more needs to be said. Big up to you, Sava. Phil P again says, Crackers and Lee, can you suggest to Ricky the Beavertown corner pin bang opposite your ENIC out protest for your next pod? Big up. I'm sure Ricky will consider it. Maybe Crackers will be the first one there. Wackass, big up to Wackass. He says hello. Big up to him. Matt McDonald's with a member chat. He said, love you guys. What's your opinion on dropping everyone but Kane with the youth team for experience? Why not? Wouldn't be that crazy, would it? I tell you what, if there's any game to do it, it would be after Sunday's game, to be honest, because I honestly believe that if we were to play the whole youth and Kane, we would have put a better display in on Sunday than we did. I agree. So I'm not. That isn't a terrible shout, but I can't see Mason doing that in his first game. Bob Spur TV says, Crackers, you once stated everyone has a breaking point when discussing numbers at protests. Has this point arrived? To me, it's evident. Big up. Any quick thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, on the wider concept of that and the breaking points and Daniel Levy, I mean, Henry Winter's absolutely giving him a shoe-in today. You know, people like Lee McQueen are now starting to give him even more of a shoe-in. I know there's people that think that Lee didn't, but he was in his way. He's being a little bit more direct. I've gone from ENIC and Daniel Levy need to reform to Daniel and ENIC out. You know, you're starting to reach people like Paul Hawksby on Talk Sport will now talk a little bit more openly about how bad a job that the current board. So, you know, even your moderates and your pragmatists are now going, this is enough. So this should be real warning signs. There should be, key performance indicators from your Savas, God bless them, that are ENIC out and now protesting all the time, through to the biggest perceived Levy and ENIC pragmatists, people like the writers like Henry Winter. You've now got nearly everybody that gave him a little bit of leeway now going, that's enough, mate. That's enough. When those voices are telling you that's enough, guess what? That's enough. It really is. There's only one person left, or very few people left, that don't want him to do something a little bit more than he has been doing. And he's one of those that can't see it. The one person that needs to see it, but can't. So, look, with regards to protesting, I've always said that everybody needs to make their own decision on what they're comfortable in doing, whether that's just writing an angry email, booing in the stadium, staying away from the stadium, not spending, right through to, look, I like going football, I like going with my mates, I'm going to go on Thursday and I'm going to get behind the team. If somebody's going and just wants to carry on as normal, you have to let them. You can't force people. People have to naturally get to their points of when they're fed up. The worst thing you can do is tell somebody you must start protesting, because you'll just get a kickback of people going, well, I'll tell you what, because you've actually tried to force me to do that, I'm now going to turn up with a banner saying ENIC in. That's you could literally start getting that where people force it. Let people naturally get there. On Thursday night, there will be a natural reaction to the board. It will sweep round the stadium naturally. If it starts to ring out for Daniel Levy to go, it will embolden people. It will pull people together. These things have to come together naturally. It's like football songs on the terraces. Remember when Arsenal done their song sheet and they'd written songs for people to sing on the stands because the atmosphere was terrible? How did that work out for them? It was awful, wasn't it? Football songs naturally. All these things that anybody comes together as a group always happen naturally. Just let it happen. It will come. It will come. If it carries on like this, it will come to that point.
All right. Nate D says, you got a better chance of convincing me Levy supports Arsenal or Chelsea than Spurs. He doesn't care one bit about results. Love you guys, show. I mean, I don't know about that, but I don't know if he doesn't care at all, but maybe he doesn't care enough about the footballing side.
I think he cares to a point where it hurts his pocket.
Essentially.
I think that's the cutting line at the end of the day.
Spurs squad, no message, just an emoji there. But thank you for your super chat. That's it.
All right, crackers. Such a pleasure to have you on today. Hopefully we can do it again soon. We very much enjoyed your contributions to Last Word on Spurs as well. So we'll be watching, and maybe we'll do a collab one day.
Oh, you're the one that watches it then.
Yeah, I'm the one viewer.
No, thank you for the invite on, chaps. It's always good to see you, and proper Tottenham home and away. And look, I like coming on and doing these shows, but I really don't enjoy coming on and talking about these things at the moment. I want to come on to shows where we're talking about how great things have been and, how together things are. That's what I want to be doing. I know there's people say, oh, these misery shows, they really sell. But I know that everybody would just rather be doing more upbeat shows about how good things are. So, no, thanks for the invite on, and everybody tuning in, and all the love I get. And even the haters, I love you too, because I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Brilliant. So hopefully we'll bump into you Thursday night, but that's it from us. Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you all very soon. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always,
come on you Spurs.